I've lived in this old house for 3 years now. Just me, my dog Riley, and a fence that barely keeps the woods from creeping in. I'd never really felt unsafe here. The street's quiet, neighbors mind their business, and nothing much ever happens. Until last winter. It was the first big snowstorm of the year. Heavy flakes fell all day, blanketing the backyard in a perfect white sheet. Around 2 a.m., I was doing dishes. I work odd hours, so late nights are normal for me. Riley was curled up by the back door, snoring away. I glanced out the kitchen window, just zoning out, until something broke the calm. Footprints. Clear as day. Deep boot prints, cutting across the snow from the back gate straight to my old wooden shed. But here's what froze me in place. There were no prints leading away, just a trail in. That ended at the shed door. Riley woke up then, ears pinned back, low growl rumbling in his chest. My first thought was a neighbor kid messing around, but my gut said no. I grabbed my flashlight and my old baseball bat. Stupid, I know, but it made me feel less alone. I stepped outside, the cold biting right through my slippers. The prints were fresh, edges sharp, not blown over by wind yet. Whoever made them had come in recently. They stopped right at the shed door, which was cracked open. I always lock it. Old habit. I nudged the door with the bat. My flashlight beam bounced off dusty shelves, rusty tools, and the junk I always swore I'd clean out. For a second, it looked normal. Then Riley barked, sharp and panicked. He was staring at the far corner behind the lawnmower. I stepped closer, heart hammering so loud it drowned out the wind. That's when I saw it. A sleeping bag, half unzipped, wedged into the shadows. Someone was inside. I could see a filthy shoe sticking out, toes poking through a worn sock. The bag twitched. Then it shifted again, and I heard a cough, muffled but so close it made my skin crawl. I backed out of there so fast, I nearly slipped on the snow. Slammed the door shut, bolted back inside, and locked every door and window I owned. I called the cops, hands shaking so bad I dropped the phone twice. When they showed up, they dragged out a man, gaunt, filthy hair in knots, eyes wild like he hadn't seen daylight in days. He didn't say a word. They found a hunting knife tucked under his sleeping bag and a battered notebook. The notebook was worse than anything. Pages and pages of scribbled notes about my house, my routines, times when I left for work, when I walked the dog, when my lights turned off. He'd been watching me for weeks, maybe longer. The police figured he'd been sneaking through a loose panel in the fence. They said I was lucky I'd found him when I did. I put in motion lights that light up the whole yard like a stadium now. I reinforced the gate, sealed every shed window shut. But last month, during another heavy snow, I looked out at 2 a.m., just like that night. And I swear, on my life, I saw a single trail of footprints leading from the woods to my fence line. No prints leaving. Riley started growling at the back door again. Maybe it's just kids, or the wind shifting powder around. But when I'm doing dishes late at night now, I keep the blinds down. Because some nights, I can't shake the feeling that someone's still out there, waiting for me to forget to lock up. Story 2. When I was 15, my parents bought this old 2-story house on the edge of town. It had peeling paint, drafty windows, and creaky floors that made it feel haunted, even before anything strange happened. But it also had a huge backyard, bigger than any of my friends. My dad was so proud of the tall privacy fence he put up. He always said it made him feel safe, like the outside world couldn't reach us in there. That first summer was brutally hot. Our ancient AC rattled but barely worked. My room turned into an oven every night. so I started sleeping with my window cracked just enough to let in the breeze. I'd lie in bed, listening to crickets, cicadas, the occasional dog barking far away. The first time I heard it, I thought it was my imagination. A soft, broken whistle drifting in through the screen. Just 3 or 4 notes, never a real tune. I figured it was a neighbor, or maybe the wind playing tricks. But it came back the next night. And the next. Always around the same time, between 2 and 3 a.m., and always the same awkward, tuneless notes. Each night, the sound seemed closer. Like whoever was doing it was working up the nerve to come right up to my window. I finally told my parents. My dad laughed, said maybe a bird had learned to whistle. But I could tell my mom didn't buy that. She made him check the yard, but he didn't see anything. Just the swing set swaying in the warm breeze. A few nights later, I was half asleep when I heard a soft crunch on the grass under my window. Then the whistling started again. So close, I could hear someone's breath catching between notes. My stomach flipped. I crept to the window, pulled the blinds up just a sliver. The motion light by the back fence flicked on. For a heartbeat, the yard was empty. Then I saw it. A man, barefoot, shirtless, standing just beyond the swing set. He didn't move. He didn't wave. He just stared straight at my window, head tilted to the side. When the light clicked off, the whistling picked up again, louder, almost urgent, like he was calling out to see if I'd answer. I slammed the window shut so hard the glass rattled. My dad stormed outside with his old baseball bat and a flashlight, yelling into the dark. He found nothing but muddy footprints under my window, wide steps, pacing back and forth along the fence. He brushed it off as a drifter, but the next day, he ordered cheap security cameras and floodlights. We all felt safer at first. For about a week, it was quiet. Until one night, the alarm tripped at 2:15 a.m. My dad played back the camera feed. I wish I could unsee that grainy footage. There he was again. The same barefoot man, shirtless, hair hanging in his face. He paced the fence line like a caged animal, then stopped under my window. He looked straight at the camera, smiled, then put a finger to his lips and whistled. The police never caught him. They said he was probably living in the woods behind the fence. My dad cut back the brush for 50 yards in every direction, but we never found any trace of a campsite. We moved out a year later. New town, new house. But I still can't sleep with the window cracked. Not ever. And every once in a while, if the wind slips through a gap in the frame just right, I swear I hear that broken whistle again, drifting closer, waiting for me to peek outside. Story 3. A few summers ago, my buddy Eric invited us all to his parents' place for the weekend. They live way out in the country, middle of nowhere, surrounded by cornfields and woods that swallow sound when the sun goes down. No neighbors for half a mile in any direction. It felt like freedom, a perfect place to get loud and stupid without bothering anyone. We spent the first night messing around in the yard. We built a makeshift fire pit out of leftover bricks and scrap wood. By midnight, we were roasting marshmallows and swapping ghost stories, half serious, half laughing at each other's jump scares. Around 1:30 a.m., the fire was dying down to glowing coals. We were yawning, drifting off in our chairs when we heard it. A sharp crack, like a branch snapping deep in the woods. Then another. Mike, the jumpiest in our group, told us to hush. We all leaned forward, straining our ears. The footsteps came next, slow, heavy, like someone shifting their weight from one foot to the other, crunching dry leaves. They moved in a wide circle just beyond the fence line. Every now and then, the sound stopped, then picked up again, a few feet closer each time. We laughed it off at first. Eric said it was probably a deer, maybe a raccoon. But the footsteps sounded deliberate. And then we saw them. A pair of eyes reflecting the last embers of the fire. High up, too high for a raccoon or deer. They didn't blink, they didn't sway, just stared at us through the gaps in the old fence. Eric grabbed his dad's big flashlight and swept it over the trees. Nothing. The moment the light clicked off, the eyes were back. Closer now. I swear they were watching each one of us, like they were picking who'd break first. We dumped water on the coals, grabbed our chairs, and bolted inside. Eric's dog, a big German shepherd, barked like he wanted to tear the door down, but he wouldn't go outside. He just sat at the glass sliding door, growling low in his throat, eyes locked on the same spot near the fence. We spent the rest of the night in the living room, wide awake, peeking through the curtains every few minutes. Sometimes we'd see the eyes again, glinting in the shadows, pacing left and right, closer, then gone, then back again. At dawn, when we finally had the nerve to go out, we found deep footprints circling the fire pit. Barefoot, huge, wider than any of ours. They trailed to the fence and vanished where the wood swallowed the light. Eric still lives there. He says sometimes, when the wind's just right, he hears branches snapping in that same slow circle. The dog still growls at the fence line for no reason. And that old fire pit, it's overgrown now, half buried under weeds and rotting logs. Eric refuses to light another fire out there after dark. And me? Whenever I sit by a campfire, I catch myself looking over my shoulder, waiting for eyes to catch the glow just beyond the tree line. If you made it to the end, you're braver than me. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more stories that'll keep you awake at night. And if you have one of your own, or suggestions for what I should cover next, drop them in the comments or send them my way. You know where to find me.